Shut up and sit down.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show, live on Free Speech Media. If you're not watching this on Free Speech Media and you're doing it on one of the lizard people websites like YouTube or Twitter, click the link, go to Free Speech Media, watch this on Float or DLive or something better, because fuck the lizard people. I'm super excited about tonight. This is somebody who I've heard a lot about, but never actually gotten to talk to because we have some cool mutual friends. Mr. Derek Wills, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, if any friend of Leilani's is a friend of mine, first of all, and then we started conversing, and it was instantly with Star Wars gifts. So, like, we're already best friends. Like,
yes, true story.
I literally sent Leilani a screenshot of our first two messages, and I was like, okay, we're best friends now. Sorry, you're getting replaced.
Leilani's the greatest. I love her to death. I really do. Really and, I get a lot of that with you, too. So, I love you very much as well, David. You keep up the good fight. No pun intended.
Well, I appreciate that. So first and foremost, why the Gentleman for Liberty?
Well, what do you mean? Why the Gentleman for Liberty?
Where'd you come up with the name? Like,
actually,
it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. So our founder, Cody Rowe, was the one who came up with the name, and his whole thing was, there's so much. There's so much bullshit back and forth with people arguing and name calling, and it's just not productive. Whatever happened to the good days where gentlemen would gather around and have great conversations over drinks. And so, if you notice on our Twitter or Facebook or what have you, it's actually Gentlemen, for Liberty, and it's a toast. Gentlemen, raise your glass for liberty. And so that's where that came from. And his whole thing was, let's just start something where people can actually talk about things,
I like that. I like the toast idea too. I've watched too many like revolutionary movies and musicals over the last like year and a half. And they've really started to hit me in the feels lately. Like, the more I'm actually doing this kind of stuff and actually like believing that I'm making a change and we're really doing some stuff here. I don't know if you've seen Hamilton, but there's a song like the story of tonight, and it's all about like how like forever they'll be talking about tonight, the night that we all met and decided this thing. And I'm like, I don't know which night of the last couple of months or the upcoming couple of months, but I know that there's a night like that here because we're really doing some crazy shit. And I think that we're going to actually be able to like have tangible freedom in our lifetime because of it.
Yeah. I mean, we are the whole liberty movement is just doing a lot of incredible things. For a while, I was kind of ashamed of being a millennial. And I'm sure a lot of people can understand that. But honestly, if it wasn't for, our generation, a lot of these conversations wouldn't be happening. It was the younger people that got the Ron Paul revolution as forward as they did. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of steamrolled even more and more. And, I don't know whether we'll see true liberty in our lifetime, but the groundwork that's being laid now is absolutely paramount. So, the results are there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of hope for very long. Even when I joined the LP, it was kind of like yeah, at least while the empire crumbles, I can say that I was I was one of the people warning against it. And then I actually kind of shifted to realizing that like that's a worthless position to be in. Like, do you remember any of the people? Like, do you know any names of the people who were like warning Rome that their economic policy was terrible and that they were going to collapse soon?
I can't say that I do.
Right. Because nobody gives a fuck. Like, but we know like most of the like Caesar's names. We know plenty of other like really fucking awesome Roman people's names. Don't know those guys. So I was kind of like, I don't want to be one of those guys that's just like screaming into the hurricane as it's tearing my house apart. It's like taxation is theft. Meanwhile, like the entire country is crumbling around us. So I got really black-pilled and was like, I'm just going to go live my life and kind of fucked off from politics for a chunk of 2020, or at least fucked off from like electoral politics. I was just, I was doing other things, working with nonprofits or like petitioning for ballot initiatives, like just tangible stuff. I was like, screw politicians. And now I'm working on 3 campaigns again, and I'm kind of like, I'm back into it, but I don't know that I still don't think we're going to elect a libertarian ever, like to president. I think that the empire is going to crumble and libertarianism is going to be such a popular ideology that when it does, none of us are going to care.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you. I don't think that I think that things are too far gone, to be honest. Like, even if we were to replace all of Congress tomorrow and the White House and the Supreme Court tomorrow with pro-liberty people, they wouldn't be able to stop things that are the impending doom, so to speak, that I would want them to try either. It might sound a bit counterproductive, but the only way that I feel that true liberty can actually become a reality is essentially through pain, through a total global economic collapse. And it's not that I wish to see that. I don't. But it's going to take a massive cultural shift. And the only thing that can create that something so catastrophic that it's kind of beyond our imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're getting close with this whole, like, with everything that's going on right now. It's inching closer and closer, and like a lot of people are getting really worried, and a lot of people are really sad and discouraged. You know, we're talking about like a bunch of people have been like in a really bad mental health state during all of this. I've been loving it. I'm like, whoo, keep burning it down. Like,
yeah, well,
digging themselves bigger holes.
I mean, it can be. I find myself like that at times, and then other times I just turn everything on, and I'm like so depressed. You know, right. There's definitely some manic depression, borderline personality disorder going on between day to day. It's like, oh, good, everything's just crumbling down, and then the next is like, oh God, everything's just falling apart. All you can do is kind of lower your head and just shake,
right.
You know?
Right. My dad is somebody who, you know, I wouldn't classify him as a prepper by any stretch of the imagination, but he is somebody who's been apocalypse for a very long time. Let's just put it that way. Is ex-Marine, you know, very, very good with weapons. Like, we've got decent amount of guns back home, and you know, like I've been shooting since I was 6. Like, he has a plan, he has an escape plan. He literally has a go bag in it, and has since I can remember. But we're not like stockpile food or like have a bunker or like any. We're not quite like crazy level preppers. But I grew up kind of thinking about that more than I think your average kid probably does at like age 12.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of forgot about it for a while. You know, I was just out living my life and wasn't thinking about the fact that this was like possible. I was like, zombie apocalypse isn't gonna happen. Like, it's fine. But now all of this shit's happening, and I'm like, I'm going back to my roots, and I'm thinking like, okay, what's my job gonna be in the dystopian like commune that we end up in or whatever? You know, it's like, like, do I actually still have the skills that I did as a teenager to survive? Like, if the entire world was to collapse and I actually had to just like survive on my own, I've been like brushing up on my skills. Went back and reread My Side of the Mountain this summer. Like,
Yeah. Well, you know, so growing up, very similar to you, in the fact that I grew up around guns. You know, my uncle was a huge gun nut. You know, I got pictures of me with a 357 mag when I was 6 years old. You know, I just kind of been a part of everything. And you know, I have my aspirations and I have my plans and I have my preps. But honestly, that's something that everybody should do if we're being completely honest. You know, just I mean, we got the gas shortage now apparently. And you know, when COVID first started, you know, you had everybody buying up all the toilet paper and stuff. It's like this is why you prep. You know, it's not. So there's a friend of mine who is a host of the Matter of Facts podcast, which is a prepper podcast, named Phil Rabelais, and his whole thing is like, look, you don't have to go crazy with it. It's just a matter of you buying an extra can of corn or green beans when you go to the grocery store. You're prepping. You buy one more than you need. You don't have to stockpile 25 years of and 10,000 rounds of ammo for 15 different types of weapons. You know, it's just a matter of just having a little bit extra to get you through some type of shortage. And that whole thing, like, that's the difference depending on the circumstances. Everybody should prep at least a little bit, you know, just keep something extra in your freezer, keep something extra in your pantry. Doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be doomsday preppers. Although, you know, might not be a bad idea to be that way either, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I'm definitely like I had very lofty ideas of what it was going to be like when I was a rich adult and could buy all the things, and I was definitely going to have stockpiles of guns and ammo and a tank and all this shit. And then I realized all that stuff costs money and I don't make any money. So
yeah,
it's really hard to prep off of like GoFundMe's and sales and like you know, monetization from a podcast.
Right. I agree. It is a struggle, to be sure. I've never made a dollar from my podcasting, so you know. But maybe writing a book. I don't know. I do have one that's on its way. I don't think that it's going to be any national bestsellers or anything, but hey, maybe it'll let me buy a little bit extra crypto, you know.
There you go. What's it about?
So it's a philosophical treatise on liberty and natural law, and basically how the state shits all over it. To put it mildly, it's entitled "The Liberty Solution," and part one just goes over all of the different ways that the state tramples over all of our natural rights. And part two is the solution to all of those things. So it's not just a book about complaining; it's a book about offering a solution, a viable solution to tyranny. And you know, I'm quite proud of it. The foreword was written by Dr. Walter Block, who's an economist from university, and he's a fellow of the Mises Institute, and very, very awesome individual. he wrote the foreword to it, and it's probably one of the most humbling experiences reading what he wrote about my book, which I absolutely loved. So that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. I just got the cover art finished.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm just waiting on the typesetting to be done, and it'll be up and available.
Wow. Well, that's very exciting. That's got to be a big book if it labels all the ways that the state tramples our rights.
Okay, maybe not all of the ways, but
I was gonna say, like, we're talking a Britannica like encyclopedia set.
Yeah, see all the books behind me. That's all just part one. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
No, actually, so my day job, I don't work for Amazon, but I work at an Amazon facility that prints books. And this is a copy of my book. So you can see it's not super thick. It's a decent read, but it's it's a short volume that I think kind of hits all of the high points. It covers asset forfeiture. It covers many different ways the state infringes upon property rights. It covers how it infringes upon the right to life, economic liberty, all of that sort of thing. So it covers the big three and some a few extras. So it's pretty thorough, I gotta say, and it's by far not going to be my only book. I'm going to be writing more.
Awesome. Do you think you're going to stick within the nonfiction realm, or?
So funny that you asked that. I have already been toying with the idea of a novel.
Nice.
So there's a few things that Leilani brought to my attention about Ayn Rand that are definitely not wonderful things, but Ayn Rand has been quite an influence on me because of Atlas Shrugged. Although, God, that woman has so much exposition that at times, I don't need 15 pages describing Dagny Taggart's blouse and how she smells at the moment. I don't need that. But but the domestic, and not that I'm not going to copy the storyline, but something along those lines of this is a novel that is really a piece of philosophy. I've been toying with that idea for sure.
I love that. So I'll admit I have never read. In fact, I have never read a single. Actually, that's not quite true. I was going to say I've never read a single page of Ayn Rand, but that's actually not true. But it's almost true. I've read very little.
2 seconds here. This is Atlas Shrugged. It's a beefy one.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the word count. So this one is, how many pages is this? And it is tiny text. This is a page 1157. You can see how tiny the font is.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
No thanks.
I ended up having I could not finish actually reading it. I had to get the audiobook. The audiobook is 60 hours long. Yeah.
The fuck?
It's really good though.
See, this is why libertarians don't have lives. Like, you can't. I'm a firm believer that it is impossible to both be so peak social person and intelligent.
Yeah, it is. I would agree with that.
I don't have time to read like that kind of stuff. I don't even have time to watch half of the podcast that I wish I could. I would love to watch every episode of Joe Rogan, but I've watched maybe 20, 25 or so.
I still have not seen the one with Ed Snowden on it. It's been on my to-do list forever. So
I've
I
seen
agree.
clips, but that's it. Yeah, I have and now I have so many friends that have podcasts, and all my friends are going on all my friends' podcasts, and it's like, oh my gosh. Like, one of my friends just went on Part of the Problem today, and I'm like, I'm probably not even gonna watch that. Like,
Yeah.
straight up. Like, I already know what most of these people have to say. We talk for hours. It's like, I don't.
Well, you know, the problem is, and this is not, I don't know if this is a criticism or a praise of the Liberty movement, but the Liberty movement is saturated with podcasts. I mean, absolutely saturated with podcasts.
Oh yeah.
I got my podcast. You got your podcast. Leilani has her podcast. You know, everybody has a podcast. It's like a freaking Oprah Winfrey show. You get a podcast and you get a podcast. Everybody gets a podcast. But the thing is, part of that, though, I really love to see, because the Liberty movement might be a niche group, but God, is that niche group active?
Mm-hmm.
They really are, and they're all about helping each other, which is fantastic. It's such a rarity in this day and age that, God, I can't really say much more about it. It's so wonderful to see. I mean, hell, you just get on Twitter and you see these follows out of nowhere, and we're just all about helping each other out, which is so awesome. It really is.
Yeah, I first of all definitely agree with the too many podcasts thing. I think part of the issue was that we had nothing better to do for the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has been the only way that I've been able to have conversations with most of my friends. Like, I don't really talk to people off of my show as much as I wish I did. So I think that was a part of the issue, but it was already saturated. Like, last year was already almost too saturated, and
Oh
then
yeah.
we just added another 75 podcasts this year. It's like,
one thing is, on YouTube, Struggler Indeed said that we're a diverse niche as well, which is saying that I'm not a fan of diversity for the sake of diversity. I've always found that to be stupid. But the wonderful thing with the Liberty movement is that we're such a diverse group with different perspectives. So we actually make each other stronger in that sense, which is, I guess, the end goal of like hey, we need to be diverse just to be diverse, folks. But the Liberty movement is diverse in the fact that we all reach out and we want to make each other stronger. We reach out for other people's opinions on things that we might not know about. You get a gay, trans, person of color, libertarian talking about things that a straight white guy like me has no clue about. I mean, you know what? Actually, yeah. Leilani is a perfect example of this. She's Native American, and she was telling me things I had never heard of before. And before Liberty, I was a gun rights advocate for Lone Star Gun Rights. I had a podcast there. I'm all about gun rights. She tells me something about gun laws I had never heard of before, that it's illegal to own a firearm on a Native American reservation. Like, my mind is freaking blown. I had never heard of this before. We wouldn't get that without that type of diversity. Mm-hmm. And, you also wouldn't get that with forced diversity either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like diversity should be natural. It should be a natural state. I think you have to actively fight against diversity, even if it's subconsciously. And I think the LP did that for quite some time. Not like I think too many people just instantly assume diverse means we're talking racially, but there's a lot of other things that we can be diverse on. Like the LP definitely had a history of like squashing like dissenting opinions and stuff like that, but for the most part, like you have to really be a shitty like you have to be putting up walls. Otherwise, good ideas don't require force, right?
Yeah.
Good ideas just draw in everybody, and that's what I'm loving about like this BS dichotomy that we're seeing within the LP is because it's just non-existent in real life because good ideas attract diverse crowds. So you have people like Dave Smith, who a bunch of people think is either an anti-Semite or a racist or a transphobe or a homophobe, or like there's a list of things that people call Dave Smith, and yet I've met black people that he's brought into the party. I've met trans people he's brought into the party. I've met gay people he's brought into the party. Like it doesn't fucking matter. If you're saying good things, people will come. You have to like exclude people, I think, to really to not be a diverse group.
I did not hear the sentence because you broke up a bit. Say that one more time.
I just said I think you have to be like trying to exclude people for it to not be a diverse group. It's going to be natural.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Not diversity for the sake of diversity, but diversity because it just naturally kind of comes. And there's an argument to be made that there could be some segregation that people just instill upon themselves, and I don't necessarily believe that, but I understand the argument that could be made. That said, whenever you have a group that grows and is diverse just naturally, that's something that's truly special, because you don't see, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of party politics at all. I'm not loyal to any political party. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I don't believe in the state to be at all in any way, shape, or form. But you don't see, to the Libertarian Party's credit, you do not see the Libertarian Party going, "Hey, look, we got a black guy. Hey, look, we got a gay guy over here. Here's a lesbian over here." You see that in the GOP, like, "Hey, here's this woman. She's for gun rights. Hey, here's a black guy over here. We like him a lot, and we're going to make him a keynote speaker at one of our events because he's our token black guy." And it's like, and you wonder why people call you racists,
right?
You just stop. What do you hear yourselves? Mm. It's so bizarre. I've never understood that.
Yeah. I feel like we've done that with women, but not too much with any other groups. We were like an all men's club, or that was the stereotype for a long time, and it still is. We're all just white dudes. But when I feel like when women started being more like prominent in the LP, like there was definitely not a full like party or movement wide thing, but there was definitely a noticeable like shift of where people were we were just trying to prove that the stereotypes were wrong, right? And like promote the like the women that were there, but it definitely came off like that. I caught myself kind of coming off like a GOP talking about my two black friends. It's just like it's like, "Oh wow, there's a female here. We got a woman."
I can kind of understand that to an extent, like whenever you're first getting started. But like you said, good ideas don't require force, and people just naturally flock to that sort of thing. And that kind of subsided, which is good. God, I don't like the virtue signaling from anybody, really. I find it all just to be hilarious, but
yeah, I feel like I find it really aggravating now when people still try to throw that bullshit at me. It's like, oh, the liberty movement's all straight white dudes. I'm like, have you watched my show? I think
Uh,
I've had more female guests than I've had male guests at this point. Like, I've also had a wide array of ethnicities and political beliefs and all sorts of stuff. Like, no, you're just wrong at this point. Like, you might have been right 20 years ago. That might have been an accurate critique of the LP in the 80s or the 90s or something, but it's just not true anymore.
yeah, no, you're right, man. But anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, my brain's not firing anymore.
No worries. But yeah, I'll definitely agree with you. Like forced, I don't think forced diversity is even a thing because that's not diversity anymore. It's just it loses every aspect that's helpful when it's really awkward. If you like make a big deal about the fact that like there is a diverse crowd, then it's no longer diverse because now everyone cares about the fact that it's diverse and starts breaking back off into their little groups. And
yeah, the focus is entirely wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right. The focus, I think, in the movement has been entirely wrong in a lot of ways, like a lot of times. We don't focus on liberty. We focus on like hating the state or hating the woke or hating the left or the right. And a lot of times we don't focus on liberty.
Yeah. So there are some problems with the movement itself. And so I saw this on Twitter. I don't even remember who posted it. But they posted a poll, and it was basically which one of these people irritates you more, and it was Austin Peterson and somebody else. I don't even remember. And I've had my fair share of disagreements with Austin Peterson. But I said, this sort of thing isn't productive. I'm not a fan of Austin Peterson, and I used to be, and there were a lot of things that ultimately disappointed me in him. But if given the choice between a Trump or Biden administration or an Austin Peterson administration, I'm taking the latter. Because while he might be a statist in my eyes, and his philosophy might not mesh well with mine, he's going to be far more pro-liberty than the former. Mm-hmm. And we need to focus on the things that we have in common, and we can figure out all the rest of the bullshit later. My criticisms of Austin Peterson, or it doesn't even matter, whomever, I know that my philosophy is in the minority. I don't believe in the government should exist at all, but many libertarians do. I'm not going to bash a minarchist or somebody that's libertarian conservative leaning because they're not an ANCAP. That is not going to advance liberty in any way, shape, or form. Right. Tyranny, it plagues everything, and tyranny is so rampant. God, it is so rampant. We need to, how we kind of opened. I don't think that liberty will actually come to fruition unless like some major global catastrophe takes place. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try at least. Mm-hmm. I think that we should on what unites us in order to really try and drive that change. We're not going to drive change if we're focusing on the shit we disagree on, which is so superfluous in by and large. I mean, one person saying, "Oh yes, taxation is theft. We should end all taxation," which I agree with. Or somebody saying, "Okay, but let's be realistic here. We can't completely end taxation because we need like a minimal type of government. If we're arguing over that shit and we're not even in power in any way, shape, or form, we're focusing on the wrong damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Oh my God. I definitely had to take a like I was being slightly hypocritical because I've been with some of my friends doing this whole like liberty unity push on Twitter and trying to like bridge the gap and bring people together, like try to say what you were just saying. But like Peterson wasn't on my list of allies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like,
and I get that.
Liberty Unity, but fuck AP for nukes. But I'm wrong. Like I'm very wrong there. You know, he's still an ally. Like in the grand scheme of things, he's still such an ally. You know, he's wrong on some big things, but like we're still at like 80% matchup, so he's not my enemy.
Yeah, and you know, kind of plugging my buddy Phil again. Matter of Facts podcast, please check it out. But Phil told me something that's always stuck with me. He's like, and I wish everybody would kind of, that if we can agree on 80%, we're there. We can figure the other 20% out later.
Yeah.
And really, that's what the liberty movement needs to do. I mean, I might personally, well, I might adamantly believe that being a libertarian socialist or an anarcho-communist is an impossibility. But hear me out. Aligning with people like that will do far more to benefit liberty, and then we can figure the rest out.
Mm-hmm.
Us infighting is not going to help anything in any way, shape, or form.
Right. And all it's doing is hardening our stances, and a bunch of them are stupid. Like I feel like we have a habit. I mean, I think this is just human nature, really. This has nothing to do with the liberty movement. But I see people come into the party or into the movement. You know, they've been a libertarian for maybe, you know, like 5 years or whatever, 3 years. You know, like not a whole lot of time, but they think that they've got like their entire political ideology figured out. Like they become a libertarian and then, oh, I got it. Like I'm done. My personal growth is over. Like I have learned all the politics now. Libertarian. And it's like, no. No. I've changed my opinion on almost everything I believe since becoming a libertarian. The only thing that stayed the same is guns and drugs, which is what brought me here. So but even that, like when I became an libertarian, I was like, okay, but like recreational heroin, that's scary. Now I'm like, legalize all drugs, recreational rocket launchers, let's go.
So, you know, you and me both, man. So growing up, and if I may shamelessly plug my upcoming book again,
please do.
I challenge is to question why they believe what they believe. Growing up, I was a hardcore Republican, man. Like I remember very vividly in high school speech talking about persuading people why invading Iraq was a good thing, right? I mean, I would never make such a speech now. I joined the Navy and I started questioning things. And then I started saying, okay, maybe being a Republican isn't where I want to be. So I'm going to start calling myself a conservative. So I started calling myself a conservative, and then a constitutional conservative. And then I was like, you know what? No, libertarianism sounds like a good idea. So I'll be a conservatarian. And then I was like, you know what? That's just not enough. So now I'm a libertarian. Then I was a minarchist. And then finally, I'm over here and I'm an anarcho-capitalist. Like, fuck all the state. I don't want the state to exist. And even now, I am not going to assume that my philosophy is never going to change again. You know, there are other brands of anarchy that are out there that I might not agree with right now. But maybe if I question myself enough, why do I believe what I believe? If I question that enough, maybe something else will come of it. And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's not. Understand why people think that acknowledging philosophical hypocrisies or changing their stances are a bad thing. It's like, that's the greatest thing ever. That's called growth and development. You know, God, if you're gonna live your life parroting what Sean Hannity says every day, dude, you are not, or Dudette, or they, whatever, you are not growing at all. And there is no worse place to be than stagnant. We always should question why we believe what we believe. And honestly, the only way to do that is to have discussions with people that you I learned more about my philosophies arguing, but discussing these topics with people that I didn't agree with. You know, and because of the diversity thing of different perspectives, right? You know, whenever you listen with an open mind, truly listen to what people have to say about these things, you might learn something. And at the end of it, if you don't learn anything and you both walk away with, you know what, agree to disagree, that's okay too. It's constructive.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate the whole back and forth pissing match. Trump 2024, Biden, you know, Harris, you're a dirty American communist. You're a right-wing extremist. It's like, just stop it. Can't we all just be like people who have opinions? Just people with opinions. That's all we are. And we can discuss those opinions. We can debate those opinions. We can even disagree on those opinions, and it's fine. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. You know, it's like we've dehumanized people we disagree with. Like, I disagree with you, and therefore you are no longer a human being worthy of your life. And if somebody were to come up and shoot you in the face, I would be perfectly okay with that. Like, that's the sort of mentality and vibe that I get from some people. And it's, no. Just because we disagree, you still have a human life that is just as valuable as mine and anybody else's. I'm never going to wish that upon you. And, you know, let's kind of push the stupidity aside. And if we can agree to disagree, that's still okay.
Yeah, I had a show a couple of weeks ago. So I also in the theme of too many podcasts, I actually have two. And so there's a Monday night show that I do with my friends Reed and Stacia, and we have a guest. And so a couple of weeks ago we had Magnus Panvidia as a guest, and it was basically like a 3-on-1 assault on my friend Stacia, trying to make her an anarchist. And she's like a new libertarian. So, you know, she went from like fully blue-pilled, like Democrat, basically, to libertarian. And now we're like trying to bring her over the line into anarchist within a couple of months. And so, but what pissed me off the most about that entire show was all the groups that we had to define throughout the thing. Like, I swear it's like a 2.5-hour show, and a solid 45 minutes to an hour of it is probably just us explaining to her like what the difference between like anarcho-syndicalism is, between like just like these tiny little minute, like, oh no, that's this thing, like, and it was so obnoxious. I'm like, can't we just talk about anarchy? Like,
Yeah. I mean, hell, just talk about something, man. I mean, talk about the philosophy behind it. You don't have to go get into a pissing match and say you're wrong. You're an awful person.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a constructive, like it was a good show. Like she was a good sport.
Well, that's
It was
good.
the comment section was not nice to
Oh,
her, but we were because we're all friends. But there was a bunch of people like, why are you even wasting your time on this socialist? And it's like, bro, she's nowhere near that. She's like just barely not an anarchist. She's like barely arguing for like the existence of some government because no government could be bad. Like she's still just scared of anarchy. That's it. She's basically an anarchist that's scared of what anarchy might look like. That's where she's at. And yeah, the comment section was just dragging her though. It was so terrible.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's frustrating. That it breaks my heart. It really does. But nobody's perfect, and we can get past things like that for sure. I'm glad to hear that she was a good sport, though.
Yeah, she's the best. And we've moved further down that pipeline since then. I'm happy to report.
Oh, fantastic!
I just crossed the line into calling myself an anarchist within the last couple of months.
Really? Surprisingly, I just got across that line probably last June, so I'm coming up on a year, maybe. So it hasn't been long for me either. And funny story, when I started writing this book, it was 2.5 years ago. The time that I first wrote the first words, I was a libertarian. Down a quarter of the way through it, I was a minarchist. By the time I was done, I was an ANCAP. Just
sounds like C.S. Lewis, like trying to write like write to prove Christianity is stupid, and like becoming a Christian.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't trying to disprove anarchy in any way, but then,
yeah, the more you study it, the more you question.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was I discovered Murray Rothbard. Actually, that was the turning point. Is I discovered Murray Rothbard and I read For a New Liberty, and it literally changed everything. Because at that point where I was a minarchist, I described myself as I'm 3 degrees removed from an anarchist, and my hang-up was I wish that anarchy would work, but I don't see how you could enforce. I don't see how you could protect liberty. Like, the whole minarchist argument of needing a police force in a court system, right? I could not wrap my brain around not having that run by the state. And then I read Rothbard and I was like, oh, so that's how you do it.
Nice. Yeah, I need to do a lot more reading. Rothbard is pretty high up on my list. What I'm doing right now is I'm basically just waiting for Michael Malice to release the Anarchist Handbook, so that I just read that and not have to like go find all of these essays and little bits. I'm just gonna let him do the work for me and put it together, and then I'll read it.
You just want a Cliff Notes, don't you? Okay,
I don't
fine.
read.
I'll send you my book. Okay, how about that? I don't know when the Anarchist Handbook is coming out.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think he was talking to Dave about it, like kind of started the idea only a few months ago. So I don't think it's happening anytime soon. But I heard him explain what he was gonna do, and I was like, oh my god, yes, please do that for me. But yeah, I honestly just don't read nearly as much as I used to, and it's taken me a year and a half to get through 1984.
That's a good book though.
It is
a really good book. Did you finish it yet?
I honestly have like probably like 15 pages left, 20 pages, and I haven't opened it in a week and a half. Like I've been in Brooklyn for almost 2 weeks now, and I literally haven't cracked the book open at all. Like he's in jail, like getting tortured, and I'm like, fuck. But I just don't read. I don't know why.
You're not even. Yep.
Yeah, gotta swallow those spoilers real quick.
Yep. I gotta just hold them down. But we've always been at war with Eurasia, so just remember that. Not really.
It has been pretty eye opening getting to read that like now and after becoming I was still a libertarian when I started it, but just it's a lot of like confirmation bias, or not quite that, but it feels like it. It's just like, oh yeah, everything I believe is dead on accurate because this book says so.
What's interesting is I'm pretty sure Orwell was like a lefty.
Yes, he was.
Yet 1984 is like the antithesis of his philosophy. That's what makes it so incredible, I guess. It's weird, but that book is amazing.
I've heard that it was supposed to be like kind of a parody almost of like basically like a straw man, almost like an intentional. There we go.
I haven't heard. Yeah,
I've never had my camera cut out like that. That was weird. Yeah,
Big Brother is watching.
Seriously, yeah. We start talking about this, and all of a sudden, there's a lag, and my camera's fucking up. I don't like it.
Anyway, you were saying.
Oh, so I feel like I've heard some theories that it was kind of like almost like satire or parody of like this is like the worst case scenario if we do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, like that's not what I mean, kind of a thing. I've heard other theories as well, but it is definitely a weird thing to have like a full blown socialist write a book about how shitty a socialist country would turn out.
Yeah. I will tell you the movie is actually pretty good too. I watched the movie after I read it, after I reread it. I had read it, back in high school, but I reread it once I became an ANCAP. And after that, I watched the movie, which I had never seen before. The movie's actually pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie.
I've heard that. Like it's one of the few movies that you could actually like skip the book and just watch the movie.
Yes, you could, but there are things in it there are things in the book that make the book better. But yes, it is one of those few where you could skip the book and watch the movie and understand everything and get just as much enjoyment out of it. But the what goes through people's minds, that's always going to be kind of the thing that sells a book, more than a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think my favorite part of the book, of course I'm not done, but so far, is the book inside the book. Because I mean it's literally just like word for word what I know to be true already. But in this like cool fictional world where we're basically I see 1984 as like a world where libertarians are 100% right. Like that is just like when that's the I told you so world to the max.
Yeah, and to that point, there are a lot of things where we're already kind of there. Ed Snowden's revelations were definitely something of major concern, to be completely honest. It's I don't know exactly how bad it is, and I don't think anybody actually knows just how bad things are. Um, but I think that they would rival what Orwell wrote, to be completely honest. And that's a lot of that it stems from the media too, because it's all just it's all orchestrated, even though they're all private companies. It's essentially a state controlled media.
Yeah. I love it when people try to like shit on RT or like some other actual like state controlled media source. It's like, oh, that's Russian government propaganda. You have to listen to MSNBC. Like,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
It's also Russian government controlled propaganda.
I also find it hilarious whenever a conservative is like, I don't trust no MSNBC, but Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity said this, and here's a Fox News link. It's like, you realize that's exactly the same thing, right? Like, it really is. Of course, but whenever people are brainwashed, it's hard to break them of those cycles. I don't begrudge them for this. I really genuinely want to help persuade people to break their cycles of loyalty to their favorite propaganda network and their favorite, slave master party and all of this. I genuinely do. But a lot of times it's really frustrating because it's like it's frustrating because they don't see that they're a slave. It's frustrating because they don't see that it's propaganda. And that's why it works so damn well.
Right. Yeah, and to be mad at them would be like not giving enough credit to the state, because the state deserves some props for how fucking good they are at this. like they're really, really good at brainwashing us from like age 4 to believe just total lies about how history happened, how the world works, how economics works, how psychology works, how literally everything in the world works. Like, yeah, it takes a lot to break people of that. Like, and to get mad at them for it is like, bro, like it's just not worth it. It's not
I
their
think you
fault.
might give the state a little too much credit.
I don't know.
This
They're fucking at least that propaganda and brainwashing.
The thing is, like, so whenever you say that, it kind of implies that there's some grand puppet master behind the scenes, like, oh, everything is working out exactly according to my plan. But it's not. It's just government is inept. They cannot do anything except execute people for selling cigarettes and bomb brown countries, right? Those are the only two things that they actually do well. The brainwashing and stuff, purely accidental for me. I swear to God, it's purely accidental. They're just like I don't even think the elites even realize, because to me they're all part of that brainwashing system too, that they're doing this wonderful thing. Well, let me dial that back just a little bit. They all are part of this elite group that are like, yeah, we can control things, but in the back of their minds they're like, we're making America better. They buy into it too. So like, I swear it's all just a coincidence that it just happened to work out as well as it did. And maybe you can blame the human condition for that, which is sad in of itself. But I would love to be able to bring people to break their cycles, not even to get them to agree with me, but to get them to start thinking for the hardest part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out where, or not struggling, testing, trying to figure out how to best do that with people. I'm working with a candidate right now who's who's really new to politics and very new to communicating with people in a professional way. Well, not quite that, but like, I mean, he's a small business owner. He owns a boot store in Brooklyn. So, you know, like his professional life is like interacting with construction workers and like, you know, like laborers all day. So like he has no filter, no like, you know, sense of like that, you know, like what you would expect out of a candidate, which is one of the reasons why I like him a lot. But also I'm trying to like, you know, turn him at least somewhat into like a politician, but I keep like fighting with myself on this because I'm like, I don't want it to actually turn him into a politician, but at the same time, I need him to be a little bit more like a politician if we're gonna win. So it's like,
that's an interesting problem to solve. Ultimately, I mean, you got to remember everybody's different. You know, the mainstream propaganda has that algorithm down pat, and I wish that I knew what it was. But in the interim, you know, you got to read people, hear how they respond to things, your discussion as appropriate, and there is no one size fits all for a lot of these things, you know. But it also really stems down to ensuring that the tone of the conversation remains civil. You know, it is possible to do. I've done it even on social media. It is possible, much more rare, but it is possible, where you can have a conversation and explain your position without shitting all over theirs. That's kind of the key. Not to say you're fucking wrong, you communist piece of shit. That's not going to win you any friends. If you're just like, well, hang on, let's evaluate this. Let's, you know, I get it. You're concerned for the poor. Okay, I'm concerned for the poor too. You know, kind of establish that common ground. I just think that, you know, it's wrong to steal from the fruits of one's labor in order to take care of this poor individual. It's an awful thing. But, you know, if I say it's okay to steal from this person here, then I'm also saying it's okay to steal from you. I don't want to steal from you. I don't want to steal from this person. And if we don't steal from anybody, then income that they can put towards private charities that will be able to lift these people out of poverty. And if you remove all of the barriers to entry to create a charity, you can have charities that specialize in specific needs for specific types of people, and they can get tailored help, you know, kind of build off of it that way, to, you know, establish the foundation and then just kind of build to your end goal. And at least at minimum, it might get people to think, but you know, just don't come off antagonistic. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We had this, this woman and her like probably 4 or 5-year-old niece come up to the table. We're petitioning at the moment. And, they came up, and apparently they had like come here specifically. Like they were coming to the store to talk to us. Like that was like, they weren't just walking by. They were coming there because the girl, supposedly, I'm really skeptical about this part. The girl wanted to ask the candidate a question, and that question was, "Do you believe in COVID?" Because she had seen him not wearing a mask a couple days ago and wanted to come and ask him if he believed in COVID. And I'm like, and you know, this is how the conversation starts out. This is ground zero for, like, you know, I'm like, okay, this is not going to go well. It ended up being like a 25-minute conversation, which arguably in my opinion did not go well anyway. Because she ended up getting to the next question was about BLM, and then it ended up being an argument about whether or not we were a white supremacist country. And I was like,
so instances like that, the other person has already made up their mind that they're going to be an antagonist, and it doesn't matter what you say. You can absolutely agree with everything they say. They're still going to argue with you. that's a bad spot to be in for sure.
I mean, I feel like if we had just like straight up lied and been like, of course we believe in COVID. Oh yeah, BLM is great. They would have just left. They would have
I
been like,
mean,
oh, okay, cool.
possibly.
But yeah, I don't know. The way he answered the first question was not great. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't great, and so it definitely started off like rocky because he took it at like a very like unserious question and like addressed the girl as a 5-year-old girl and like kind of like crouched down and like was talking to her and like really like simply and like not articulating the way that he would if he was talking to an adult. And so it just like from there it just kind of snowballed and he got defensive quick and I was like, oh my god, this is awful. I literally stood up and walked away from the table like twice during the conversation. I'm like,
yeah, don't argue with 5-year-olds. That's never a good image.
Right. Yeah, it was and I there's a difference between being a yes man and like just being an empath and like trying to understand people. It's like you don't know. There is no way to tell somebody that they're wrong about what they feel. Like, you can't if they're feeling it, they're feeling it. You can argue about whether or not they should be feeling it, but they're feeling it. So if they feel like police brutality is the biggest issue in the city, then you have to talk to them like that. Like, and if they believe or if they feel that homelessness is the biggest problem, like whatever they think is the biggest problem right now during this conversation, if you're running for office.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree with that. You shouldn't it's up to them to drive the conversation, but yeah, you're absolutely right. You need to answer it as if it's also your biggest issue. And if it's not, I mean, I hate to say it, but I would much rather have somebody tell me I don't know anything about this, or I'm not as educated as I would like to be on this topic to be able to have this type of conversation than to try and bullshit their way through it.
Agreed. I feel like you should have a platform that you're running on. And if a question doesn't fit into that platform, you should either answer it the way you just did or redirect it to fit your platform. Because that's not hard either. If somebody's asking you about like, homelessness, but you don't really have a platform on how to like solve that actual problem, but you do have part of your platform is like, abolishing property tax. So then you can very easily redirect, even though it's not actually like a tangible like help fix the homelessness problem right now. Like it's a bad answer in my opinion. I think it's too libertarian of an answer. Most normies aren't gonna like it, but it's still something,
Yeah. No, I agree. But this kind of goes into the whole "why do you believe what you believe" thing that we were talking about earlier. If we understood why we believe what we believe, then we can at least have an answer for really anything,
Yeah. I actually read a book a while back titled "Why We Believe What We Believe," about Christianity, and that very much helped with politics. That being able to self interrogate, I guess.
Yeah. No, so it's beyond the surface argument, apply it to anything, right? If you know electronics, if you know cars, if whatever, if you're portraying yourself as an expert, a subject matter expert on something, and assume for the sake of argument you are an expert in how an internal combustion engine works. the reason that you're a subject matter expert is because you understand, the importance of a timing chain. You understand the importance of the firing, sequence for each spark plug, and how to generate the maximum amount of horsepower and feet-pounds of torque for output. You understanding all of those components, all the way down to the compression ratio and all of that. That's what makes you a subject matter expert. If you just know, suck, press, bang, blow, and that's all you know, you're not a subject matter expert. You know the basic fundamentals of how it works. Well, if you're trying to say, I have this stance on this philosophical position, or this philosophical stance on a political position, well, are you the guy that understands how to tweak the compression ratio to get the maximum amount of horsepower? Or are you the, I know it's a 2-stroke motor and it goes, roundy. Which one are you? And for each topic, which one do you want to be?
Right. I'm still dying about the goes roundy.
It's a technical term.
For sure. And I feel like it's really important to identify the ones where you're okay with being you turn the key and it go vroom. Like if that's all you fucking know, that is okay. And I feel like it's important to identify, especially if you're a libertarian, because we have the solution to every problem imaginable, and we have an opinion on every topic as a philosophy group. So you really need to start like canceling some of those out. Just be like, okay, no, I'm not even gonna try to understand that shit, because I want to actually understand like gun rights or something, like something else.
Yeah, I mean, understand, identify where, identify really care about. And if you don't really care about them, that's okay. You don't have to care about everything. You don't have to be an expert in everything. You can take a position, but if you're going to defend it, you could just, don't go too deep into it, because bread and butter, so to speak. Like let's take abortion as an example. Let's say somebody is, I'm pro-choice, but I haven't really thought about it too much. I just think that this is the best position to hold on it. Well, do you think that abortion is murder? The answer to that is, I haven't thought that deeply about it. This is my position on it. I think it's the most pro-liberty position to take on it. I don't want to have a discussion. That's fine. And then if that person continues to press you on it, you just walk away. Don't engage. It's fine. You don't have to engage. It's okay. But if you are an expert on gestational development and all of these other, medical things that I am not an expert by any means on, and you can carry yourself throughout any debate whatsoever, and you can cite some obscure medical journal from 1977, then by all means, be like, yes, I am pro-choice because of this, and this, and this, and I can counter this argument with this, and this, and okay, fine. That's also okay.
Mm-hmm.
But God, I hate whenever, and the most frustrating thing for me is when I literally see two people or more, and it's usually more, who are not associated with each other in any way, shape, or form, literally typing the exact same words to me on a conversation. Like, it's just like, this is not your opinion. This came from Sean Hannity or somebody. Hi, Hank Reardon? Is that what H Reardon stands for? I think somebody commented on YouTube, says H Reardon. Hank Reardon is a character in Atlas Shrugged. Just an FYI. We were talking about that earlier. But anyway, I'm sorry. I got distracted by Hank Reardon. I'm kind of fangirling here at the moment. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it really is obnoxious, and I'm guilty of it quite often because it's not Sean Hannity, but it's like I can't tell you how many times I've directly parroted like Dave Smith or Scott Horton or Joseph Fish Benjamin or somebody, like I parrot I parrot other people. But I feel like I only do it because like I think it through and know that I agree with what they say and just realize that there's no way for me to word it better because I'm not going to outdo Scott Horton at like going off on war. I'm just never going to do that.
Yeah. Now, and that is why you understand why you believe what you believe, because then you're not parroting anything, because it doesn't matter what other people say. You know what you believe. Period. Dot. End of story.
Yeah.
And confirmation, it is Hank Reardon. I just want you to know. Hi, Hank.
Mm-hmm.
Total fan of you and your Reardon Steel. Thanks. Sorry. I'm just gonna ruin your entire fangirling over a fictitious character in an Ayn Rand novel.
I mean, weirder things have happened on the show, so I mean, yeah. But yeah, you need to know what you believe, and like I said, like you need to be able to exclude specific subjects from your studies, and if you are knowingly doing that, then I think quote unquote parroting people is in those areas is somewhat okay. If you're
I would
having
agree.
like a good honest discussion, honestly, like if since you brought up abortion, like just don't talk. I agree with everything you said. Basically, unless you're like a gestational development expert, just like shut the fuck up about abortion. It's like no one knows what they're talking about there. Especially not me. So I hate that topic in general. But like even like foreign policy. I'm not very good on foreign policy. I'm just actually not. Uh, it's not something that I had done a whole lot of research, and I kind of used to be a neocon. So, I'm better. So for the majority of my life, even to this day, I'm still hesitant to change my mind on this. But for basically my entire life, my least favorite president in history was Harry S. Truman.
Because of Austin Peterson and nukes.
Kinda. Well, I mean, I wasn't a fan of the nuke thing, but I hated him for firing MacArthur and not allowing them to push the line into China during the Korean War. Like I was a huge fan of General Douglas MacArthur, like which is a weird like I nerded out over that dude for way too many years. I've been to his he has a whole museum where he's buried. I've been there. It's great. Uh, love him. Like basically everything other than the nuke conversation. Like I think he took a step too far there. But other than that, like he was super based, and I loved it, and I fucking hated Truman because I would talk to people like Korean War vets would tell me that like they watched their buddies get killed by Chinese soldiers, and like well we couldn't really actually fight back correctly, and I fucking hated that so much. I was like, if we had just if he hadn't fired, I firmly believed, and I actually still believe this. If he hadn't fired MacArthur and we had been able to destroy North Korea, Vietnam would never have happened.
There's something to be said for that. I'm not super savvy on Korean War history, but I know quite a bit of other history, and I could see that argument being made. To Truman's credit, he did do one thing that I thought was very prophetic, I'll call it. So there's this great book I recommend everybody read. It's called All the Shah's Men, by, I think the author's name is Stephen Kinzer. It's about the 1953 coup d'etat in Iran. So, long story short, the United Kingdom was upset because Iran wanted to nationalize their oil industry, and the UK was profiting majorly because BP was essentially the monopoly there. And the British government had approached Truman and said, hey, can you and the CIA help us out with this? Truman said no, partially because he was engaged in Korea at the time. But the other part of it, and this was a quote from the book, was that Truman didn't want to set the precedent of the CIA being involved in foreign relations during peacetime. And then after Eisenhower took over, he was all for it because they were like, hey, we got communists over here in Iran. Can you say no more? We're going to destroy the entire thing. So great book, by the way. All the Shah's Men. Fantastic read. Very educational. And if you ever want to know why, well, kind of why Iran hates us, this is a great book as to figure out why. Just saying, just throwing that out there.
Good to know. Yeah, I barely, I know like World War II history fairly well, and I know like some of the later wars. But yeah, when it comes to foreign policy stuff, I've kind of checked out. Because so all my history on wars is the blue pilled bullshit propaganda history. Is all that I know. I know what the history books told me of like wars, and that's about it. So yeah, I'm completely fine with deflecting most people. Like, if you want to talk to me about foreign policy, I will literally just send you the link to my episode with Scott Work. It's just easier that way. Actually, unfortunately, we didn't talk almost at all about foreign policy in that interview, so that's actually not. No, I actually got him going off about the cops and like a whole bunch of other shit. It was actually kind of neat. It was like a whole bunch of stuff I hadn't actually heard from him, so it was a fun episode. But yeah, I'm totally fine with being like, no, just go ask Michael Malice or Dave, or even Reed Coverdale is significantly more knowledgeable than I am in foreign policy. But you want to talk about like domestic policy, especially like municipal stuff, like within the Northeast. All right, we can have that conversation. I know all sorts of shit about that. You want to talk about drug legalization or gun rights? I got it. You know.
Yeah. I mean, so you want to know something interesting? Hank is asking if we know the history of the Second American Revolution. Is he a time traveler? Is he trying to tell us something that we don't know about? Or I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
But on, you're talking about gun rights. So I used to lobby here in Texas for constitutional carry, and I was big on gun rights, and gun rights was one of those things that really got me in towards libertarianism. Gun rights, ironically enough, was the topic that got me to realize that capital punishment was not okay. It's interesting. Yeah, so they don't seem to go hand in hand, right? Mm-hmm. Well, whenever I was, big on gun rights, my argument was the right to bear the tools that you deem necessary for defense of your life, your property, and the fruits of your labor. That didn't come from the state. Therefore, the state cannot restrict or abridge them, right? They didn't grant you this right. It's a natural right. And then I realized, life's a natural right. Wait a second. How does this mesh with executing murderers? And And I'll tell you, before I had this epiphany, I was a staunch supporter of capital punishment, a staunch supporter of it. I would argue people until they're blue in the face defending capital punishment. And then I had this epiphany and I was like, I can't hold this position. It is antithetical to the rest of my it is antithetical to the rest of my my philosophy. So I had to change my views on that. And that was the first major change for me. And I really wish more people would have that type of, I guess, self-reflection, and, you know, really delve into their philosophies. And Hank says that the Second American Revolution was 1861 to 1865.
Yeah. I actually do know what they're talking about, kind of,
Yeah.
sort of, but not actually. I know. Yeah, very cursory BS in that area. But so capital punishment is one that I'm still on the fence on. I have kind of a basically my opinion is that I am pro abolishing the death penalty in America. However, I don't know where I stand on the next nation. Like, you know, if it comes to that, like, you know, the what happens afterwards, I'm not necessarily against there being capital punishment there, because I feel like when in the process of recreating smaller, more localized, slightly better, like slightly anarchist governments throughout the world, then, you know, maybe we'll actually have justice systems that work better. Possibly, it's a thing, you know. And if that, I guess it's an if we have justice systems that work, then I might be able to like be okay with reintroducing the death penalty. If we confirm that there's like has been no false convictions in the last like 100 years, like guaranteed, then okay. Maybe.
Well, what you're asking for is a utopian idea. Anarchy is not a utopian idea by any stretch of the word. But a state that values liberty and creates an actual justice system is very much a utopian idea.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I will gladly call myself a utopian. I don't believe that it's possible, but I have my perfect world made up in my head that I argue for.
Right on.
I think you actually you hit the point right on the head there. You know, anarchy is not a utopian idea. We get accused of being utopians way too often.
All the time. I was like, no. There will definitely be people who get shit on by just the life. You know, like you will have evil people succeed. You will have constantly fail and never make it. That is not what a utopia is. But that's how life is. I will never say that my philosophy will guarantee the success of anybody that pursues, you know, X, Y, or Z. You know, if they pursue their own ventures, there is no guarantee for success, even if they deserve it. Even if 100% of everybody agrees this person deserves to be successful, there's no guarantee.
Yeah. In fact, in most cases, if everyone agrees that you deserve to be successful, you're probably too nice of a person to actually be successful.
that is true.
Unfortunately, good, honest people don't necessarily always get rewarded in our current climate.
Yeah, well, I mean that's how life is, though.
Mm-hmm. So if you if the world like collapses and descends into a shitstorm, where you try to be when that all happens?
Away. I want to be away from. I want to be away from everybody and everything, and I will help people that will be in, that might happen upon me. I will do what if I can, but I do not want to be in any densely populated area. I do not want to be. I don't want to be a target in any way. I want to be the middle of where my address is Latin long coordinates. That's where I want to be.
I dig it. I'm with you. I'm trying to probably already have a commune and walls and lots of guns before that happens. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, I
well,
good.
No.
Oh,
this lag is obnoxious. Finish your thought.
I don't even remember what my thought was, man.
Story of my life. I was just gonna say before we wrap up, give people tell people a little bit about Gentlemen for Liberty and how they can find you and how they can support you and why they should listen, other than because I told them to and because Leilani told them to.
Okay, well, you need to listen because David and Leilani told you to. No, so Gentlemen for Liberty, we are we're a small operation, but our goal is to promote the message of liberty, just as anybody else in the liberty movement is. But we kind of have a slight we have a focus on civility and more of the philosophical side of things, talking about taking political topics of the day and talking about the philosophical side of that. His name is John Galt, and not his real name, no, in case anybody's wondering. But my co-host name is John Galt. He is he has probably one of he has probably one of the best brains of anybody I have ever met. John really is probably one of the most analytical thinkers I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. And he just adds a lot to the show. The thing is, like, whenever he thinks about an answer, he will take his time to figure out how to properly articulate it. But by the time he's done articulating it, you know exactly what he meant, and there is no question about it. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about him. Cody is I guess the founder of our little organization. He's written a few blog posts. Hank says, we've written a couple of he's written a couple of blog posts. He's planning on dropping in on the podcast every now and again, but his main focus is just to try and write short essays that can help people understand the philosophy of liberty. And yes, so I'm an anarcho-capitalist, but John is actually more of a minarchist than I am. And Cody, actually, if I hope he doesn't get upset for me, for kind of speaking for him a little bit, but he and I have spoken. He's still trying to really figure out exactly where he stands. And that's okay. That's one of the things that we really love about the organization is that we don't all agree on things. John and I do not agree on everything. Cody and I do not agree on everything. And those are wonderful things to really celebrate. Me personally, book coming out here probably by the end of the month. It'll be available on Amazon. And I'm going to plug the hell out of it on our podcast as well as on our social media because, that's the best place to do that from. But, of course. You can find us at gentlemenforliberty.com, all one word. It's FOR. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Gentlemen for Liberty. You can find us on Twitter at gents4liberty. You can email us at gents4liberty at protonmail.com. And you can support us in many ways, just sharing our posts. We have a Patreon channel at Gentlemen for Liberty or at Gentlemen for Liberty. And we also take crypto donations as well. Anything to help, anything and everything helps us. And we're planning on growing up a lot more this year. We want to start a store, merchandise, things get together, like the ladies and gentlemen for Liberty get together type thing, where we all just get together, have some drinks, smoke some cigars, and just bullshit and have a good time. Those are things that we're kind of working on, but yeah, that's pretty much how you can find us. And I'll tell you, we appreciate the hell out of everybody that supports us for sure.
Same here. Like the people that give that help keep people like us, you going, are really like such an invaluable asset to the movement. Like none of us would be able to be putting out the content or running the campaigns or doing any of the stuff that we do without supporters. And it's kind of awesome that the Liberty movement actually like has that now. And like you were saying way back at the beginning, like just that camaraderie and desire to help each other is fucking beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Me too.
Well, Derek, thank you absolutely so much. This was awesome. I will definitely have to have you back on again sometime soon.
Oh, well, I very much appreciate the invite. If I could, I would like to ask your permission to close out this show, your show, the way that we closed out on our podcast, if that's okay. Is that all right?
Go for it.
So one of the things that we do is we highlight, everything in the world is negative. And it's easy to lose track of the wonderful positive things in our life. So I would like to ask you, what are some positive things in your life that you would like to highlight and make sure that you don't forget? What are some positives in your life? That's a good way to end things up.
Well, at the moment, I'm just really, really excited for tomorrow and this weekend. I'll be in Pennsylvania at the LPPA convention, and I will be meeting multiple of my heroes, and then also dozens of my internet friends that I've never met in real life, and also get to see a bunch of actual in real life friends that I haven't seen in a while. So I'm very I'm just basically just holding out for tomorrow.
That's fantastic, man. That really is that is a huge positive. In addition to my book, one of the things that I really like, though, I'm ably employed. I'm able to provide for my wonderful family, my beautiful wife, my 3 puppies. And those things are things that we shouldn't ever take for granted. So those are the things that I want to highlight before we close out. But one other thing before we do, the other thing that we do is we toast. I said that Gentlemen for Liberty is a toast, right? You have the comma after gentlemen, and it is actually a toast. So I would ask if anybody out there is drinking anything, raise your glasses with me. And if you're not, pantomime or pretend that you are.
I'll raise my joint.
Yeah, raise your joint, man. Just toast for liberty.
For liberty.
I have never toasted with a joint before. I envy you, sir.
I gotta make that a real thing. That's gonna be a thing from now on. We're gonna cheers with joints. I'm gonna make that a thing. It's gonna be a thing. Watch. In 10 years,
I hope it is
doing that.
I hope that it is, man.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please go follow Eric and the Gentleman for Liberty on all of the things that he said. It's been scrolling across the bottom here for a little while. If you haven't already followed me on everything, you are missing out. And what's wrong? Like, why are you watching this if you don't already follow me? That doesn't even make sense. But a lot of you guys follow me on everything, but you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet. So click the subscribe button, and we will see you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.